Ladies, let's talk about something powerful, something most people completely underestimate. Not beauty, not seduction, but presence. That moment when you walk into a room and a guy feels something and he doesn't even know why. Confidence isn't about being the loudest person in the room or the one who always knows what to say. It's not about how many jokes you crack, how bold your flirting is, or how well you play the game. Real confidence, the kind that gives someone butterflies without them even realizing why, is often quiet. It's calm. It's rooted in a deep sense of self-worth, not the need to perform or impress. When you walk into a room and you're simply at ease with who you are, people feel it. It's magnetic. There's a difference between showing up to prove your value and showing up already knowing your value. When you're trying too hard to impress someone, especially someone you're attracted to, it shows. You start overcompensating, you talk faster, you fill silences that didn't need filling, you steer the conversation just to keep it going instead of letting it breathe. All of that effort comes from a fear that if you don't do enough, you won't be enough. But when you know who you are and you're not trying to perform, there's an ease about you that's incredibly attractive. A guy may not be able to articulate it, but he feels it. He feels it in the way you make eye contact and actually listen instead of waiting for your turn to talk. He feels it in how you don't rush to fill every moment with excitement or clever banter. You're not trying to sell him on you. You're just being you. That's where the magic begins. This kind of confidence is rare, and that's why it's powerful. Most people think they need to entertain or dazzle someone to create attraction, but what really gets under someone's skin, in the best way, is when they can sense that you're not trying to win them over. You're grounded, relaxed, and fully present. That presence creates safety, but it also creates tension, the good kind. It's what gives someone butterflies. It's not about being passive or detached. It's about knowing that your value doesn't need to be explained or proven in a single conversation. People confuse stillness with indifference, but it's not the same thing. Stillness, when it's paired with warmth, creates a beautiful balance. It shows you're not needy for attention. You're open, yes, but you're not performing. You're not in a rush to make someone like you. That's rare. That's memorable. That's the energy that lingers with someone long after they've met you. When you radiate this kind of calm confidence, you create space for genuine connection. You're not just reacting, you're observing, feeling, being. And that presence allows the other person to relax too. They're not on guard, they're not trying to decode your intentions or match your energy. They can just enjoy the moment. And in that shared space, the spark begins to build. One of the most underrated parts of attraction is the power of curiosity. In a world where we're constantly oversharing, updating, and explaining ourselves, there's something incredibly captivating about someone who leaves just enough unsaid. It's not about being distant or guarded. It's about understanding that mystery isn't about hiding, it's about pacing. When you don't reveal everything all at once, you allow someone the chance to lean in, to wonder, to want to know more. And that subtle curiosity is often where the butterflies begin. When you meet someone you like, it's tempting to share everything. Your stories, your dreams, your intentions. You want to show them that you're interesting, deep, fun, smart. But sometimes, in doing that, you flood the space before anything has had a chance to naturally unfold. Think of connection like reading a really good book. If someone gave you the last page first, it wouldn't matter how good the rest of the story is. It wouldn't feel the same. The beauty is in the unfolding, the discovery, the layers being revealed over time. Oversharing too soon can also come from a place of anxiety. It's the desire to control the outcome by giving the other person as much information as possible, as quickly as possible. It's saying, here's everything about me, now please decide. But true connection doesn't happen under pressure. It thrives in space. When you let the conversation breathe, when you don't rush to fill every silence or answer every question with your whole life story, you give room for attraction to build. Leaving space for curiosity means being intentional with what you share and when. It means showing little glimpses of who you are, instead of putting your whole personality on display like a presentation, not because you're hiding anything, but because you know that part of what makes a moment exciting is the fact that it's new. Think of how much more you appreciate someone's story when you hear it after knowing them for a while, when it comes up naturally rather than being dropped in the first 5 minutes. There's also a confidence in restraint. It shows that you don't need to overshare to hold someone's attention. You trust that who you are speaks loud enough without needing to explain every part of your past or personality. And that trust in yourself is deeply attractive. When someone senses that you're not in a rush to be understood, they become more invested in understanding you. A guy doesn't get butterflies just because of what you say, he gets them because of how you make him feel. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let the moment hang for a second longer. Let the silence linger just enough that he's left thinking about you long after you've walked away. That moment of wondering what's on your mind, what your story is, or what you were about to say but didn't, that's where anticipation lives. There's something powerful about a genuine compliment, especially when it's unexpected and sincere. In a world where flirty lines and surface-level charm are everywhere, authenticity stands out. Giving a guy butterflies doesn't require a clever pickup line or exaggerated praise. It comes from making him feel seen in a way that's real and effortless. A genuine compliment lands differently because it speaks to something deeper than appearance or status. It reflects that you're paying attention not just to how he looks, but to who he is. Flirting can be fun and it has its place, but when it's overdone or too scripted, it can lose its effect. The moment a compliment feels like a strategy or a performance, it becomes forgettable. But when it feels spontaneous and real, when you compliment something others might not even notice, it creates a lasting impression. Saying something like, "You have a calm energy that makes people feel safe," hits differently than, "You have a nice smile." One reaches the surface, the other touches something emotional. What's interesting is that guys don't always get meaningful compliments. Sure, they might hear generic things now and then, but rarely do they hear something that actually resonates with them. When you give a man a compliment that feels personal and thoughtful, it disarms him. It softens his defenses. It stays with him. Because most people don't take the time to notice the details, and when you do, you stand out. You become memorable, not for trying too hard, but for being present enough to see something others miss. There's also strength in giving without needing anything back. A compliment is most impactful when it's given freely, without the expectation of getting one in return. That self-assuredness is attractive. It says, "I can make you feel good without needing you to validate me in response." That kind of energy creates emotional safety and intrigue all at once. It shows you're confident enough in yourself to uplift someone else without it diminishing your own worth. When you combine warmth with subtlety, the impact is amplified. It could be something as simple as noticing how thoughtful he is in a conversation, or how passionate he gets when he talks about something he loves. These compliments aren't flashy, but they're meaningful. They're rooted in who he is, not just what he shows to the world. And when someone feels seen for who they are, not just how they look or what they do, that's when the emotional spark begins. Even the timing matters. A well-placed compliment in a quiet moment, when it's least expected, carries more weight than a loud, obvious one delivered for effect. There's a kind of intimacy in recognizing something small but meaningful and naming it without fanfare. It builds connection without pressure. It says, "I noticed this about you and I appreciate it," and sometimes that's enough to make someone's heart beat just a little faster. Playful teasing is one of the most natural and underrated tools for creating chemistry. It's light, it's spontaneous, and it carries that spark of energy that makes interactions feel exciting. When done with warmth and good intent, teasing builds a unique dynamic between two people. One where there's both connection and a little bit of tension. That tension, when gentle and playful, is what gives a guy butterflies. It's the feeling that this person is fun, unpredictable in the best way, and fully engaged in the moment. The key to playful teasing is balance. It's not about mocking or putting someone down. It's about creating a back and forth rhythm that's charged with humor, energy, and just a touch of challenge. It says, I like you, and I'm not afraid to have fun with you. It breaks the formality of getting to know someone and invites them into a more relaxed, flirty space. And that shift from polite conversation to playful banter can completely change the emotional tone between two people. What makes teasing powerful is that it signals confidence and comfort. When you playfully tease someone, you're not being overly careful with your words, which shows you're not intimidated. At the same time, you're tuned in to their reactions, which shows you care about how they feel. That mix of self-assuredness and sensitivity is rare, and it draws people in. It creates a dynamic where he doesn't quite know what you'll say next, but he wants to stay in the conversation to find out. There's also an element of flirtatious challenge in teasing. It lightly pushes against someone's ego or expectations in a way that invites them to rise to the moment. When you jokingly challenge his opinion, tease him for his choice of coffee, or smile when you call him out on something silly, you're creating a space for him to respond playfully too. That mutual energy becomes like a spark between you. It's not about being mean. It's about being engaged, present, and just mischievous enough to keep things interesting. Another layer of teasing is how it invites intimacy without being overly serious. Instead of deep emotional conversation, which has its place, teasing keeps things light while still building connection. You're essentially saying, we don't have to take ourselves too seriously right now. We can just enjoy this moment. That kind of energy helps someone feel safe enough to relax and open up, because it doesn't come with pressure or expectations. What makes teasing truly innocent and effective is the tone behind it. It has to come from a place of affection, not frustration or sarcasm. The best teasing makes someone smile, not shrink. It boosts the mood instead of dampening it. And when it's delivered with a sparkle in your eye and a genuine smile, it creates a moment that lingers. It turns an ordinary conversation into something playful and alive. Something that leaves a guy thinking about you when the moment is over. Perfection is often seen as the ultimate goal when it comes to attraction, but emotional presence is what truly makes someone unforgettable. Being emotionally present means showing up as you are, without a script or a mask. It's the ability to be in the moment, not thinking about how you're coming across, not trying to impress, just being fully engaged with the person in front of you. When a guy senses that you're not distracted, not guarded, and not performing, it creates a sense of closeness that's hard to replicate. That's what makes someone feel drawn to you, sometimes without even knowing why. Perfection is distant. It creates a sense of admiration, but not always connection. When someone appears flawless, others may be hesitant to get close, afraid of saying the wrong thing or not being enough. But when someone is emotionally present, they feel real, they feel human. And in that humanity, there's room for connection to grow. Being emotionally present doesn't mean being overly vulnerable or spilling your heart right away. It means being real in your reactions, responsive to the energy of the conversation, and open enough to let the other person feel like they're talking to the real you. This kind of presence is powerful because it's so rare. Many people go on autopilot in conversations, smiling, nodding, saying the right things, but not really there. They're busy thinking about how they're coming across, what they'll say next, or how they're being perceived. But when you're truly present, your attention becomes a gift. You're not just listening to respond, you're listening to understand. You're noticing their tone, their body language, their emotions. And when someone feels seen and heard in that way, it creates emotional intimacy. Butterflies don't come from someone being perfect, they come from feeling something. A guy won't remember if your hair was flawless or your words were polished. He'll remember how you made him feel, if he felt understood, appreciated, safe, or even just genuinely enjoyed in your presence. That emotional imprint is what sticks. Emotional presence is what turns a moment into a memory, a conversation into a connection. It's what makes someone smile later thinking about a small interaction that felt unexpectedly deep. Well, this doesn't mean you have to be emotionally intense or always focused on serious topics. Presence can exist even in the most playful or casual moments. It's about being real with your reactions, laughing genuinely, asking thoughtful questions, and letting your guard down just enough to show that you're truly there. When your energy is grounded in authenticity, it creates a ripple effect. The other person feels safer to drop their guard too, which deepens the connection even more. There's a quiet power in someone who doesn't need to perform or perfect every word, who's comfortable with pauses, who allows emotions to be felt instead of rushed past. Emotional presence shows that you're confident enough to let the moment unfold naturally, and that kind of energy makes even the smallest exchange feel meaningful. Knowing your value changes everything about the way you show up, especially in the early stages of getting to know someone. When you truly understand your worth, you stop chasing validation and start allowing connections to unfold organically. There's a quiet confidence in someone who doesn't rush to prove themselves, who isn't trying to convince someone to like them. That energy is magnetic because it creates space. It shows that you are grounded in who you are, and you don't need to sell yourself or compete for attention. People often feel the need to impress right away, to make a big impact quickly, thinking that if they don't, they'll lose the other person's interest. But when you know your value, you're not operating from fear. You understand that the right connection won't need to be forced. You're not trying to be chosen, you're observing just as much as you're being observed. That sense of self-respect changes the dynamic. It creates mutual interest rather than one-sided effort. There's a huge difference between being open and being overly available. Knowing your value means you're willing to show interest, but you're not bending over backward to win someone over. You're not over-explaining, oversharing, or overthinking every move. Instead, you're relaxed, selective with your energy, and willing to walk away if something doesn't feel right. That mindset is powerful because it shifts the focus from trying to be liked to simply being aligned. When someone senses that you're not dependent on their attention or approval, it sparks curiosity. It makes them wonder, what's different about you? Most people are used to interactions that feel effortful or overly eager. When you bring a calm certainty into the conversation, when you communicate through your tone, your posture, your words, that you're not here to prove anything, it immediately changes the vibe. It creates an emotional high ground, not in a superior way, but in a way that subtly says, I know what I bring to the table, and I don't need to announce it. This also plays out in the way you respond to interest. When someone shows attraction, do you light up because it feels like a win, or do you calmly receive it knowing that their interest is just the beginning of the story? When you know your value, you don't rush to reciprocate just because someone notices you. You assess, you stay grounded, and you let things build naturally. That creates a sense of emotional pacing that allows butterflies to develop over time. What often creates tension and excitement isn't intensity, but restraint, holding back just enough to keep a little mystery, allowing silence to breathe, letting the moment unfold without trying to control it. These are subtle but powerful signs of someone who is centered. A guy doesn't get butterflies just because someone is beautiful or funny. He gets them when he senses something deeper, something rare. And that often starts with how you carry yourself, how you hold your energy, and how willing you are to walk away rather than compromise your self-worth.